First thing, tell you a little bit about me. So some of you may know me from my time as the leader of the Career Development Office at the University of Michigan Ross School of Business. Others of you may know me from my time with MBA Career Services and Employer Alliance. I was involved in that organization. I was at Michigan Ross from 2010 through beginning of 2018, and I was involved with MBA Career Services probably six of those years, initially as a member of the Standards Committee, and then as the treasurer, and then as the president, and then one more year on the board. So that was a great time supporting what we all do to support students and getting to know a lot of you, and just good fun, good people that I got to work with and get to know. So early picture, me, age 18 months, I managed to successfully, resourceful lad, managed to successfully maneuver that high chair across the room to get to a chocolate cake that was dessert for some guests. But I did get caught along the way. Next up, I have 4 sisters, 2 older, 2 younger. Here is a photo from when I was in college. You may notice that my hair looks different there than it does now. My hair is pin straight naturally, but when I went off to college, I thought it might be kind of fun to have curly hair. So I went to my mom's salon and got a perm and rocked that perm for about 2 years until I entered the undergraduate business program at the University of Michigan, when I decided to get a little more conservative and cut off my locks. So I did graduate from the University of Michigan with a BBA, and my early career was accounting and finance. My wife graduated from Michigan State University. Any of you that are from the Midwest know that that's a fierce rivalry. Unfortunately, for me at least, if you look to the lower left, you can see my 2 sons, my daughter-in-law, my wife, all are graduates of Michigan State University. So we live in a house divided, but I am completely outnumbered. Lower right is a picture of my wife and me with our grandson, Finn, who's now getting close to 2 years old. So my top 5 are relator, learner, input, connectedness, and communication. And in 2018, January 2018, I left the university to launch my own coaching and training practice. And so now I do a mixture of executive coaching, what I call job launch coaching for people that are newly hired or newly promoted into a management role. I also do job search coaching, which is kind of a carryover from my time at Ross. And then I also do strengths training and development work, both with universities as well as in the private sector. So I've had the good fortune to work with some of my former career services colleagues, conducting strengths training at Northwestern Kellogg and at the Fuqua School at Duke, and also at the Harvard Business School. So it's been fun. I love talking about strengths, and I'm excited to talk with you about it today. So today our subject is talent. I'm going to talk to you about it from 3 different perspectives. The first is you as an individual. We'll explore how you can learn to name your dominant talents, understand them, and develop them into strengths. Then the second perspective will be you as part of a group or a team or an organization, and the fact that awareness of your own and others' talents allows you to improve how you interact with them and provides opportunity for talent synergies. And the third perspective is about your professional role as someone involved with students, whether it's advising and coaching them or recruiting them. Gallup defines talents as naturally recurring patterns of thought, feeling, or behavior that can be productively applied. Some talents are stronger and more dominant than others. We talk about our top 5. But talents represent the way we approach challenges and opportunities and the way we filter the world through our lens of talents. So knowledge and skills can be learned and developed, but talent is enduring. Talent is inborn. There's an instinctive quality to talent. And to veer from our natural ways requires conscious effort and is difficult to sustain. Our talents represent essentially how we're wired. So talents are invisible, but they do leave clues. Some people, for example, have a knack for storytelling. Steven Spielberg, one of the most famous storytellers of our time, a couple of his movie logos up here on the screen. I would guess that one of Steven Spielberg's dominant talent themes is communication. Some people can see a vision of the future and can create it. I would bet that futuristic was one of Steve Jobs' dominant talents. Talents really represent the way that we're wired, and we're going to go through an exercise in a moment to reveal some clues to your talents, whether you've taken the assessment or not. But first, I want to make sure everybody's able to participate. So here are the instructions for this activity. If you look at the top of your screen, you should see in green you are viewing Damian's screen. Click on View Options. Click on Annotate, click on Stamp, and then pick whether you want to use a star or a heart as your way to indicate your response to what I'm about to share with you. So, stamp if you almost always talk to people in elevators, airplanes, grocery stores, and wherever you go. Our talents are things that we actually just can't help sometimes. And people that are high in woo, which stands for winning others over, really can't help it. They just see strangers as friends they haven't met yet. Ooh, somebody got creative with that blue oval. All right. Okay. Stand up if you almost always have a color-coded or otherwise organized closet. I'm surprised this one is as popular as it is. All right, moving on. Stamp if you almost always write down a list of things to do and stick to it even on the weekend. And extra credit if once you work on something that wasn't on your list, you add it to your list just so that you can cross it off. Oh, somebody's making a heart with hearts. Awesome. Stamp if you almost always need to pick someone to race while driving. This could be a clue that competition is one of your top 5. And lastly, stamp if you almost always push the elevator button more than once to remind the elevator that you're still there. We have a lot of creativity in this group. I appreciate that. All right, so moving on. I want to tell you a little bit of background about the StrengthsFinder assessment. So Donald Clifton set out to study excellence. He found a lot of people were studying what's wrong with people, and he wanted to know what would happen if we studied what's right with people. His research was initially informed by the discovery that students who persisted to graduation, that is, successful students, had different character traits than less successful students. His research revealed that there's much greater return on investment from building on talents as opposed to focusing on weaknesses. This graph is based on a study of speed reading courses because they found out that some students were much more successful than others. And so formal research was done to identify the most successful method of speed reading. As it turned out, it had nothing to do with the instruction, with the course content. It had to do with the instructor. But something else came out of this study. What they found was people that were classified as normal readers, that is reading 90 words a minute before the training, had dramatic improvement at the end of the training. They increased their reading speed by 60%. But those that were well above average, highly talented in quick reading before the training, and that is 300 words per minute, had even more dramatic improvement, more than 800%, up to 2,900 words per minute as a result of the training. So that led to the result, or the finding, that individuals gain more when they build on their talents than when they make comparable efforts to improve areas of non-talents or weakness. So I know some of you have not had a chance to take the StrengthsFinder assessment, and I wanted to conduct an exercise so you could get some clues to your talents. As I mentioned earlier, talents do leave clues. So we're going to do this exercise called 5 Clues to Talent, and it's something you can do for yourself, as well as the questions inherent in it provide a framework for discovering the strengths of others. So yearnings represent a pull or attraction to one activity or situation over another. Rapid learning represents when you are able to execute something naturally, but struggle to break it down into steps for others. Flow is about what you're doing when time seems to disappear because you're so engrossed in an activity and just know what to do next. Glimpses of excellence are when other people tell you that you are great at doing something. And satisfaction, deep satisfaction and energy, rarely come from places where we don't also have strengths. So I'd like you to take 3 minutes to fill this out if you received a copy via email and printed it. Otherwise, just use a sheet of paper and jot down notes as to what your answers would be to these 5 questions. So instead, what we're going to do is share from the chat. So I'd like folks to share 1 or 2 of their answers in the chat box, and how you felt about that exercise. Yearnings, dancing, music, global events, naturally drawn to planning and creating special events or activities or memories for others. Can be difficult to think of activities for flow. Creative, puzzles, helping others, relaxing, or yearnings. Competition, planning, satisfaction, travel. Writing, class instruction and learning. Not a big surprise there, given this group, a lot of learners here. Combining different resources of content. Brainstorming new ideas with colleagues. Perfect for somebody with high ideation. People, the answer to all of them had to do with being with others. Probably high relationship talents in there, which was one of the things I found that you'll see later on.
Damian, while you're reading through the chat, I went back to settings as the attendee suggested and was able to update it. So you can create a breakout room if you wish down later in the session, okay?
Okay, thank you. Naturally drawn, things done in childhood help me recall things naturally drawn to. That's a great point. Sometimes thinking back to a simpler time helps us figure that out. Editing written work, great. Improving processes, solving problems. Could be restorative there. Deep connections with people, probably high relator. All right, well, this was great. Thank you all for playing. Now you feel free to keep populating that. I'm going to move on to the next slide though. So is it StrengthsFinder? Is it Clifton Strengths? What the heck do we call this? Well, the answer is yes. When it was released initially, it was called StrengthsFinder. And then in honor of Donald Clifton, it was called Clifton StrengthsFinder. And then a few years after he passed away, further honoring him, the name was officially changed to Clifton Strengths. Those of us that are strengths coaches call it by all three names. So they're used interchangeably. So now I'd like to talk about our top 5 talents, our talents broadly. Our talents are like our tools. Our most dominant talents, our top 5, are the naturally recurring patterns of thought, feeling, and behavior that we really go to regularly on a daily basis. They're like the top shelf of our personal toolbox. We use them across all domains of life. The bottom 5, our lesser talents, are the least dominant talents we have. Some call them weaknesses, but really they're areas of talent. They're just not areas that we don't use. They're just not areas that we use very often. It takes more energy to use them as opposed to energizing us, and we're oftentimes just not as skilled. So we can invest in them, but we're never going to become world-class like we are with our dominant. We may take them from being really areas of weakness to being so-so with them. Our supporting talents, our middle talents, are those that we can relatively easily employ when we need to, but they're not how we approach things on an instinctual basis. Your Clifton StrengthsFinder results really reveal your talent DNA. There are over 278,000 combinations of 5 top talents out of 34. But if you look at them in order, there are over 33 million permutations. So that's the same 5 talents in the same order. It's kind of a hard number to get your head around. And I was planning for this presentation today, I was trying to think of something that would make it more relatable than just a big old number. And what I came up with was, if you took the population of Ohio, Michigan, and Illinois and had them all stand in a line, kind of like the ones you've seen outside Costco lately, that line would extend for 6,000 miles, basically coast to coast and back. So you'd have to walk a long way to find someone else with your same top 5 in your same order. The theme names, maximizer, individualization, consistency, significance, were developed by Gallup to help make StrengthsFinder results relatable, to provide a common language that we can use when discussing our talents with each other. Your top 5 represent your greatest potential, and knowing them allows you to develop, to target your development efforts. They represent your potential when you are at your best, or putting it another way, we are at our best when we're doing what comes naturally to us, when we're operating out of our talents. As we think about being part of a team, it's important to understand our own talents and those of our colleagues. So to that end, we're going to complete another exercise, and this time we'll be able to go into the breakout room. So this exercise is called At Your Best, and it really relates to being part of a successful team and being able to share information with each other about what you do best, what brings you joy, and what you're proud of. So I'd like you to take a few minutes and answer these questions, and then we'll go into breakout rooms and you can share a couple of your answers with each other. All right. So what I'm really curious about is whether you noticed common themes among your answers. Combining my love for my career with travel. Working with others, yes. Collaboration and problem solving, creating presentations and being in front of a group. Helping and being needed. Not surprising in this group to read that. Yes, focused on helping and building something new. Creating, creating, creating. All were people focused. Helping other people is a common theme. Learning and analyzing, that's a common theme, particularly in higher ed. Bringing people together. Depth and transformation through play, creativity, and nature. Planning and organizing. Bringing enthusiasm and ideas to a group. Most of the things I enjoy are by myself. Adaptability and leadership and people connecting. Individualization, especially when it comes to students. Planning and calculating. Now I know your I remember your top 5. Analytical was one of them. Improving an experience or process for others. Connecting people to each other for a win-win result. So that sounds like career services. Working with people, connecting. From strategy to execution, an achiever, indeed. Making everyone feel valued, mentoring. Excellent. So this is a great exercise to do as a group, as your own team, whether people have taken the StrengthsFinder or not. In particular, it's not frequent that we are asked to say what's the best thing about me, or what my most fulfilling experience was. To a supervisor, that can be great information to know the people that you're working with better. And the things I believe I bring to the team, sometimes there can be some surprises there that are awesome. So this is a reference card that I'm not expecting you to be able to read. I just wanted to make sure that you know is available. It shows each of the 34 themes with a brief description. It is available online, but I like having a physical copy of it handy, particularly when working with others. So as you're talking with someone and you have a clue about their talents, you can refer to this, or if they share their talents with you, you can refer to this in case you're not familiar with what that one means. So the one warning I would give, though, is talent names should not be used as labels. They're really a starting point for learning more about each other. We each have unique ways of interacting with the world based on our unique combination of talents. So if you have relator and learner, you may behave differently than if you have relator and individualization in your top 5. So again, they shouldn't be used as labels. As we think about teams, learning about the strengths of others opens up the possibility for partnering in order to combine our strengths or mitigate our own lesser talents. When you begin a project, bring people together with complementary talents, even if it means going outside your team. You'll notice groups of superheroes, whether human or reptile, always have complementary powers. Gallup has studied thousands of real teams and found the most cohesive and successful ones possess a diversity of talents. And they determined it's not necessary for individuals to be well-rounded, but it's very helpful for teams to be well-rounded. When Gallup went back through their original research, their original interviews with thousands upon thousands of successful people, they found that talents naturally grouped into 4 distinct domains. These general categories are useful for thinking about how individuals contribute to a team, how we can contribute to a team. The executing and strategic thinking domains tend to be focused on tasks, and the influencing and relationship building domains tend to be people focused. So when we have the opportunity to do what comes naturally to us, or when we provide that opportunity to others on our team, engagement goes up. And when engagement goes up, performance goes up. This is a strength grid that can be a wonderful tool whether you're a leader of a team or just a participant in a team. I created this grid out of the 25 people that had sent me their top 5 results as of last night. And I'm displaying it now to show you that this tool is available, but also just to point out a couple of things. So this group has more people with talents in the relationship building domain than any of the others, 24 out of 26 people. I included myself in the group. The second most popular domain, if you will, is the strategic thinking domain with 19 people. But when another way of looking at it is 38% of our top 5 among all of us are in the relationship building domain. Again, as I mentioned earlier, that's not unusual for a group of people that are career services related or recruiting related. They work with people, they enjoy working with people, they're naturally drawn to this. Another benefit of having access to a strength team grid like this when you're part of a team is to see at a glance where your colleagues' strengths lie, which can help inform how you interact with them and how you regulate your own behavior as part of the team. If you know someone else has dominant relationship building themes, that's the lens through which they view the world. And if you have dominant executing or thinking, strategic thinking themes, then you can tailor your approach to their natural way. And you can ask them to do the same, vice versa. Another display of that same data in a different format is this team summary. And it shows the themes in rank order, most popular or most prevalent to least prevalent. So again, here you can see that connectedness relator input, 8 people had that in their top 5, learner 7, and there was a tie among empathy, harmony, developer, responsibility, and individualization. 3 of those 4 are relationship building. So if you look at the bottom of the sheet, you'll see as a team, these are our top 5. So if we're interacting with another team, either in our workplace, either at a school or elsewhere, we know that as a team, these are how we as a group view the world and interact with the world. So 3 in the relationship building domain, 2 in the thinking domain. And these are, you can see what we bring as a team, what we need as a team, and what motivates us. Before I move on, I'd like to ask if there are any questions related to these 2 reports. I generated these 2 slides with a program called Cascade that I subscribe to. It's available from a strengths coach in the UK. But others have generated, well, the first slide, the grid, it can be generated in an Excel spreadsheet. It's a little hard to do, but possible. So happy to share information with you about that. Do people's strengths change over time? So Clifton StrengthsFinder has a pretty high repeatability factor, but it's not perfect because it depends on what Gallup has found is once you've taken it once, you sort of know how it works, and people that take it a second time tend to not be quite so answering from their gut. They tend to think about it a little bit more. And so, but in their research, they found that there's a 77% consistency in your top 5 from taking it one time to the next. Julia asks, is there a tool for individuals that's a nice summary of what I bring, what I need, what I'm motivated by? Stand by. You'll see that in a moment. How do you speak with a team that doesn't have the area that they might need to succeed? That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. So let me go back to the previous slide and show you, whoops, wrong direction. Here we go. So we may not have strengths that are in a particular domain, but that doesn't mean that we can't do what's necessary to be done in that domain. We just do it in a different way. So for example, most of my strengths are in the, well, I guess they're spread out a little bit. I have no strengths in the executing domain. That's what I wanted to say. That doesn't mean I can't get things done. That means I get things done by working a little harder. It's not my first approach. Or I can get things done sometimes through other people. So my number one is relator. So there are a variety of ways we can get things done, even if we don't have strengths in a particular area. And there are ways that a team can get things done if none of their members have strengths in a particular area. So I'd like to move on now to the topic of careers. Wouldn't it be great to have an Alexa skill that tells students which career is the right one for them? Or a Hogwarts sorting hat to put on a job candidate's head that would tell us which job they should be hired for? Unfortunately, we don't have either of those available to us right now. StrengthsFinder indicates how we do things. It doesn't tell us what we should do. Gallup's found that there are multiple paths to the same destination. We can be successful using different strengths to get to the same goal. For example, those with dominant relator talent can be successful in sales, just as successful as those with dominant woo talent. The assessment is really designed as a development tool, not a selection tool. That said, candidates and recruiters should seek to check all of the boxes in pursuit of the best fit, including motivations, interest, skills, and talent. This starts with self-awareness on the part of the student through assessments and self-reflection. It's also important to understand each opportunity, including the work environment, the organizational culture and values, and job responsibilities. Both the student and the recruiter should focus on obtaining the best fit so the student has the opportunity to do what they do best every day. It's important to match our talents to expectations, the most important expectations of a role. It's something both the student and the recruiter should keep in mind as they're considering the fit. So there, as I mentioned earlier, there are different paths to the same destination. People can use different talents to achieve success in their job. But the point I'm trying to make is to be aware of how your talents can help you meet the expectations of your role. Awareness of our talents can lead to engaging them, and engaging them leads to performance. So talents can be raw or mature. When I was trying to think of something that had a visceral reaction to raw, this was what came to mind. I kind of like what it looks like on the right-hand side more than on the left. Raw talents are underdeveloped, uninformed, impulsive. Mature talents are developed, well-informed, and controlled. For example, raw achiever might just want to keep busy doing anything, while mature achiever must produce needed results. Raw learner has curiosity that can dissolve into going down too many rabbit holes, while mature learner fully explores something with the purpose of fully explaining it to someone else down the road. I'd now like to talk about strengths development. So we've talked about talents, we've talked about strengths. I defined talents for you earlier. A strength is the ability to consistently provide near perfect performance. Well, to convert a talent to a strength requires an investment, adding to your knowledge, developing new skills, and practicing. And knowing our top 5 gives direction to leverage your investment in the areas where you can most effectively develop powerful strengths. Gallup provides countless resources in the form of articles, blog posts, research reports, podcasts, and webinars. Explore everything that's available to you at mygallup.com, my.gallup.com. In case you need more inspiration, I want to share a couple of statistics with you. People who focus on using their strengths are 3 times as likely to report having an excellent quality of life and 6 times as likely to be engaged in their work. So now, if the technology works, I'd like to find out more about your situation. So the first question, I need to activate this poll by clicking here, is how engaged are you at work? And your choices are engaged, not engaged, or actively disengaged. The results are anonymous. I don't know them. No one else will know them, but I'm curious. And you can either log into swiftpolling.com and enter the code. Oops, sorry about that. And enter the code, or you can send a message, text message. Gallup does a survey every year of workforces around the globe, and they found that that in the United States, I think it's about 60% engaged. Globally, it's about 30% engaged. Now, I could be off. I didn't look at those numbers lately. And there's always a small percentage of people that are actively disengaged. Those would be people that are looking for a job or bad-mouthing your organization. See, we got somebody that's not so happy. And what we find is when individuals have the opportunity to do what they do best every day, their engagement goes up. And when engagement goes up, performance goes up. All right, the next question I have for you is, do you get to use your strengths in your job every day? Text 1 for yes, 2 for most days, 3 for no. The most common cause that I've personally found of people not getting a chance to use strengths in their job every day is a lack of understanding on the part of the supervisor as to what the individual's strengths are, or a breakdown in communication. And oftentimes this dilemma can be solved through clearer communication and the manager looking for ways for that person to be able to use their strengths, whether it's having them participate in a project that's outside of their department or something else. So I'm delighted to see that 68% of you have a chance to use your strengths most days, and 23% is terrific that you get to use those every day. All right, our time is winding down, so let's move on to ways that you can use your strengths every day. So number 1, you can display your top 5 strengths on your door, on your desk, with a brief explanation of each. You can work to match your projects and goals with your top 5 strengths to see how you can best utilize your strengths in your daily work. You could devote 5 to 10 minutes each day to learn about one of the other 34 talent themes and figure out who you know with that theme. You could find a strengths buddy, someone who will encourage you and hold you accountable if you display the shadow side of your strengths. And when I say shadow side, I mean when you're overutilizing a strength or not cognizant of how you're using it. And number 5, have coffee or lunch with a coworker who you don't know very well and listen to how they use their strengths. So in response to Julie's message earlier, this is a report that also comes out of the Cascade program that combines on one sheet of paper a lot of information about each of your top 5 talent themes, including the brief explanation up at the top, kind of the standard explanation, descriptive words the role you play, what you like to do, or what you do, how you are, the value you bring, the needs you have, metaphors or images that may relate to you, barrier labels. So that could be the dark side of your strength, or just how people label you if your strength is overused, your motivators and your demotivators. So I think this is a great tool to have, not only for you yourself, but for those that you work most closely with, including your supervisor or manager and the people that report to you. It gives them an inside view of how you're wired. The other report that I shared with the people that had sent their results to me by last night was this one called the Bring Need Report. And it shows what you can contribute, the value you bring, and what you need to be energized based on your strengths. So with that, we've got a couple minutes left for questions. I wish this had been where we were able to, talk back and forth, but the chat has accomplished that to some degree.
Damian, are you seeing a few of the questions that are popping in?
Yep. So do people's top 5 alternate, especially if they're close between 8 and 10 different strengths? Oh, that's a great question. So the top 5 are what Gallup releases in their top 5 report. If you upgrade to the full 34 report, which costs another $40, you'll see all 34 of your themes. And what we find is that when you go through number 6 through 10, 11, 12, you may find that those are talents that you use quite regularly. And in terms of do your top 5 alternate, it's less important which one is number 1 and which one is number 5. They all tend to be quite closely clustered. Gallup doesn't release the actual raw scores. They just share that the top 5 are closely clustered, and the next 5 may or may not be pretty close to those top 5. So I would encourage you, if you're really interested in this, to upgrade to the full 34 and see if your 6 through 10 are ways in which you regularly are your normal patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving. You can find the Bring Need information for each theme online. In fact, I have a reference card that I'd be happy to provide to you for that. If you send me a follow-up email, that I'd be happy to do so. What's my favorite coaching success story? And yes, I'm happy to share the slides. My favorite coaching success story, I guess, has to do with somebody that I worked with last year who was moving from China to the US, a US citizen that had been in China for 4 years and was moving back and wanted to start doing a job search. And we went through, I had her go through StrengthsFinder at the beginning of our time together. And what she shared with me at the end, once she landed a job here in the Detroit area, actually, was that she got so much more out of our time working together than she expected. She thought I was going to help her find a job. And in fact, I helped her understand herself better and be able to excel in her new job more than she anticipated. Any other questions? Well, it's been my pleasure spending time with you this afternoon. Don't hesitate to reach out via email. I'd be delighted to assist you however I can, as individuals or organizations. So thank you for your participation today.
Damian, once again, this is Heather with GradLeaders. Thank you so much for making the switch of what was going to be an in-person into an online webinar. So we appreciate it. And for everyone on the line, I'll be sending out the recording and Damian's slides, and make sure all the follow-up information gets in your inbox for yourself to explore more or to share with your team. So Damian, once again, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.